what's up?
Hi, everybody.
Good morning, good evening.
We are starting with item 1 of the preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah on page 565.
First of all, we're on Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. Okay, so just a quick reminder what we've talked about so far. What we do in this course, basically, we're learning the language, the concepts, the connection between the terms, trying to immerse ourselves into the scripts of the Kabbalist, very similar to how a child learns a mother tongue or the world. It's not usually like today we learn this, tomorrow we learn that. It's sometimes we do it like we divide to such capsules, but in many cases we just leave it, and gradually we have these connections in the brain, in the heart, in spiritualities between us. So this is what we're talking about as vessels, yeah, to receive, because in the end, or to perceive reality, because in the end, reality exists in a certain way. And the question is, how do we perceive it? And that's according to our sensitivity to the resolution we have when we relate to it. And in spirituality, it's very clear that this sensitivity, this vessel is through the connections between us, meaning between the souls, meaning to the extent that a person can somehow get out of him or herself. This might be perceived as mantras or things that you've heard before. We'll try to give that some more flavors until it will settle down in feelings and it will be clear, like practically clear. What we went through last time is the beginning. In the beginning, Baal Sulam touches some subjects that Dan talked about last time, and we elaborate on that. We'll go over that shortly. We really hope that you went over the last time lesson again in between. That's very, very, very helpful to get used to the language, to get engaged with the material. That's very important. Yeah, something to add to
that? No, well, except for the following.
Yeah.
We started last week from the beginning, and we're going back to the beginning again this week, because really we should go over everything twice. We kind of read through occasionally some points once, but it should be, I guess I would suggest paying attention this week to the fact that we went over this material, just less than a week ago, and it's going to probably sound completely new at this point. Like throughout the week, it has this way of kind of erasing and renewing, and that's fine and actually desirable. So just notice that during the study, it's not really, it's more about like the effort, I guess, that we put in. Like you should be feeling that something is happening. That it's not a passive experience, that you're actively trying to engage in this and connect to it and try to feel like we're doing this together.
Yeah, and remember that the main goal of the study is to let the light work on us, being in a similar form to the upper light, so it can work on us, and that we achieve through our internal intention that we've talked about also last time. Maybe we'll elaborate on that as well today.
Shall we begin?
Shall we begin? Yes, please.
Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. While studying, the thought, page 565, under the heading, The Thought of Creation and the Four Phases of Direct Light. You want to give us the...
Before we start, we
had technical difficulties with our computer today. Yeah. So Gilad has graciously helped.
This is
provided. Everybody knows Gilad.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now we have Zoom also on the computer as well.
Yeah. So
What page are we on? We are on page 565. Okay. So I'll begin. The thought of creation and the four phases of direct light. Item 1. Rabbi Hanania ben Akashia said, the Creator wished to cleanse Israel, hence he has given them plentiful Torah and mitzvot. As it is written, the Lord was pleased for his righteousness' sake to make the teaching great and glorious. It is known that cleansing is derived from the word purifying. It is as our sages said, the mitzvot were only given for the purification of Israel. We must understand this cleansing, which we achieve through the Torah and mitzvot, and what the aviyut is within us, which we should cleanse using Torah and mitzvot. Since we have already discussed it in my book, Panim Masbirot, and the study of the 10 Sfirot, I shall briefly reiterate that the thought of creation was to delight the creatures, in accordance with his abundant generosity. For this reason, a great desire and craving to receive his abundance was imprinted in the souls. This is so because the will to receive is the kli, the vessel for the measure of pleasure in the abundance, since the measure and strength of the will to receive the abundance precisely corresponds to the measure of pleasure and delight in the abundance. And they are so connected that they are indivisible, except in what they relate to. The pleasure is related to the abundance, or pertains to it, and the great desire to receive the abundance pertains to the receiving creature. These two necessarily extend from the Creator, and necessarily came in the thought of creation. However, they should be divided in the above-mentioned manner. The abundance comes from his essence, atzmuto, extending existence from existence, and the will to receive included there is the root of all creatures. This means that it is the root of initiation, that is, emergence, existence from absence, since there is certainly no form of will to receive in atzmuto. Hence, it's considered that the above-mentioned will to receive is the whole substance of creation from beginning to end. Thus, all the creatures, all their innumerable instances and conducts that have appeared and that will appear, are but measures and various denominations of the will to receive. And all that exists in those creatures, that is, all that is received in the will to receive, imprinted in them, extends from atzmuto, existence from existence. It is not at all a new creation, since it is not new at all. Rather, it extends from his endlessness, existence from existence.
Okay, so let's go over it quickly because we went over it last time. But again, in the beginning, Baal Sulam actually talks about the whole point of this article, of this preface. So he's saying that we have this concept or this term that is called Israel. This Israel is the desire to connect to the Creator, okay? This is the definition of this concept. Yashar Kel. And this Israel needs to become purified. Nice. No, I'll write it like this. It needs to become purified or being or to become zach from the word zakut. Okay, it means to be purified or to be in resemblance to the light. And zchut or zakut, and this is being done by actions that are called mitzvot. So you have the actions, so these are the actions. In other place, where some says that there is no difference between a mitzvah and a law, like a law of nature. And you have also the concept of Torah, which means the light. And what is being purified actually? The thing that is being purified is the will to receive, or what he calls here aviyut. And we talked about it we talked about it last time, that aviyut is like the measure of the will to receive. Okay, and why is this process required? Meaning, moving this thing that is called Israel from aviyut to zakut by the actions of mitzvot and the light of Torah. Why is all of this process is needed? Also, it says to add or to connect Israel, meaning like there are many points of Israel that are being connected to one thing. Why is this required? Because by that, how does it's being translated that it was said that the Creator will do for His righteous and for His name? How do you write it in English? Like in the beginning of item 1, like third.
The Lord was pleased for His righteousness' sake to make the teaching great and glorious.
Yeah, okay, which means to reveal the greatness of the concept of the Creator, or to reveal this quality of bestow. Okay, so this is, so in simple words, the whole process is that we have something that is called Israel. This thing is dispersed or broken or disconnected by the will to receive, or what is called aviyut, and by doing or engaging in actions that are called mitzvot, showing the light that is called Torah, you come to a state of zakut, of purification, in which all these points of Israel are connected to one. And this is like a structure in which a phenomena that is called the glorious of the Lord and His righteousness is being revealed. Okay? Later on, he talks about it later on, like in different ways. So he goes forward and he says, in order to understand that, actually he says the whole thing in a different way. Okay, so now he's talking about the process, now he's going back, and he says, let's understand the reason. Okay, so the reason, he says, we had a thought of creation to give to the creatures. Okay, and because we had this thought of creation to give this endless pleasure to the creature, and that's why we the nature created will to receive in the same size, meaning because there is no waste in nature, meaning that if the will to receive that was created was smaller than the light itself, then not all the light would be realized. If the light was smaller, if the will to receive would be bigger than the light that needs to be received, then even if the light is being realized, still the vessel would be empty. So actually we're talking about a balance. Okay, so this is a way of speaking, saying that the vessel was created according to the light. In action, there is no reality that is without light and will to receive. They come as one. There is one reality. Okay, this is a very important point, that saying that the will to receive was created to the extent, according to the size of the abundance, is a way of speaking. And that's why I said that they are connected in a way that cannot be divided. Only according to whom we relate the pleasure or the light, and who we relate the will to receive. Okay, because both of them come from the Creator, both of them come from the general law of creation, and all the divisions that we do is like a artificial division. Okay, it's like let me think of an example. Yeah, I don't know. Like when we see somebody's acting and we're talking and we try to divide it to the thought in the action, or the intention in the action, and the action itself. Actually, the action as we perceive it is one thing, but we try to divide it to two different parts. Okay, so for example, we see somebody stabbing somebody else, so we can say that there is the action, and also there is the intention of the person, meaning did he stab him in order to hurt him, or did he stab him in order to perform a surgery or something like that. Okay, so we try to divide them in order to understand reality in a different way. This is very important. This is a very, very important concept to understand, because we need to understand that these two layers that come already from here are actually the two main things that messes up our lives, because we as human beings are divided to these two layers, meaning we're not just like marbles that are being drawn according to our magnetic force or something, to or rolling to a lower point from a higher point, meaning we're not just about achieving balance, or as we would translate it, to perceive pleasure or to be happy. And we also have another layer inside of us, which is the layer of adhesion with the cause, with the law, meaning trying to understand why is that, what is the purpose of that, what is the reason of that. All of these questions are the same thing. They are actually an inner need to relate to the second layer, okay? And this already comes from here. And that's why it says that the light itself, or what we relate to as pleasure or the information layer, it doesn't matter, this is existence from existence, and the will to receive is existence from absence, wanting to say that this will to receive is a temporal thing. It's like an artificial thing. It's something that allows us to achieve this process, that coming from separation to wholeness, and after that it won't exist. Okay, so sometimes we call it the angel of death, or the breaking, wanting to say that this is the will to receive is like something that is only in our perception, and it's meant to be mended, or it's meant to transform into something else, which is already also a question. What does it mean to transform something? Yeah, and will it actually change? Okay, or you can also ask, does something actually happen to the will to receive? Like, does something actually changes in the process? So, and there are also quotes about that of Kabbalists, that nothing actually changes. What was will be, and כן, אכלתי ישן נושן, how do you say? אכלתי ישן נושן. Like, I don't know. Okay, no, I don't know the translation. It's a quote that means to say that what we ate is what we'll eat, meaning that what was in the moment of creation will be in the end of correction. Nothing changes actually, again, besides of our perception, besides of our exertion that we added in the process. Okay, and what else does he add here? Yeah, and also what he says, that all the material of the creation and everything that will happen and needs to come to be, and how will it perform, and everything that will be revealed, everything is already included in this moment of creation, okay? Which again is a way of saying that the creation itself is like a point. In this point, and you can refer to it as the moment of creation, and this point, everything came to be, all of reality, because everything in spirituality is perfect. Every state contains all the information, all the states, everything already. All the process is only towards our eyes. Which remind me, because nobody reminded me, you should have reminded me, Benjamin, in the beginning of the lesson, right? We talked about it, that we don't know where is the Big Bang, where is us, and what is the whole general picture, right? So we said we'll talk about it in the beginning. In Kabbalist terms, a week is like a prehistoric period or something like that. So it's like tens of millions of years. So we're not good in memory. So if you want to remind us, we'll forget. So for Benjamin and what we said before, and before moving to the next item, where are we at in the general process, okay? So sometimes we talk about a model that Baruch talks about, which is easy to give some kind of a general orientation. Again, like all models, like all ways of explanation is like taking the reality, which is whole, and slicing it into slices like a salami and trying to understand a certain slice. So understand that this model is only partial. So if we're talking now, we are now in this moment of creation here. Okay? And later on in the preface, we'll talk about the 4 phases of direct light. 4 phases. And later on, we'll talk about a process, how the worlds came to be, how the breaking was made, how the general soul was created, and how it is corrected. Okay? This would be here. Then, after all of this dissension of the spiritual reality, we can talk about a reality or a level of reality, meaning a level of perception that is called our world. And this level of perception, you can start talking about a thing that we perceive as a big bang or a moment of beginning of the matter. You can talk about the evolution of the matter in degrees of animated, animated, vegetative, animal, and speaking. You can talk about the place of the point of in the heart that starts to awaken. And then you can start talking about a process in which a person starts to realize the point in the heart and you desire through his teaching of Kabbalah and to ascend in the worlds until he comes back to this point of adhesion with the Creator, which was the same point from which he was created. Okay? Usually this part is being mentioned in what we talk about in the work in the group, and Kabbalists talk about it in a very general way, more like principles of work, because everything that is being revealed is according to the development of the person that actually exerts and works and learns and changes and reveals everything inside him or herself. Okay, and this whole thing, which is like how the system was being made, how it was created, what are the laws that are working, this is what we learn in the preface, in other scripts like the Talmud Eser Sfirot, what he wrote here like Panim Meirot and Masbirot, many scripts. This is being usually described in details. Because it gives us some kind of sense and understanding of how we are built. Two very important things to remember. Everything that we learn here is much before what we call us or we. And that's why even sometimes we give examples about things we do, or like you'll see an example of the host and the guest and things like that. Don't be confused that we are talking about people here or something like that. We are talking about forces, about the system. There is no concept of free choice there, just a process of creation of the system. Okay, this is one important thing. The other very important thing is all the wisdom of Kabbalah doesn't talk at all about our world. Okay, so nothing. Our world is like the lowest level of perception. It's a state of some kind of illusion. So usually most of the scripts don't talk a word about our world. So don't translate that like that. I know people that try to take concepts from here and understand from that modern science or how Kabbalah can help solve problems or understand the laws of reality. This is not how we learn it. We learn it more in a way of realizing it ourselves in order to come to spiritual attainment. But there are people who do that, also people that are not Kabbalists. Many people that done that through history. If you're talking about people like, I don't know, Isaac Newton or Greek philosophers, so many of them try to understand things from Kabbalah. This is not how we learn it. Also, many people look on the Bible or other spiritual scripts as historical stories and things like that. I wouldn't recommend that, but but know that people are doing that. So this is important to understand. What else? The last thing is that there is no actually three models, okay? There is only one line, which is according to the how a person perceives reality. And you can say that according to his attainment, he understands how the system was being made from above downwards. This is very similar to when we become parents. So if some of you are parents, so you probably remember that when you become a father, you start to understand your father better. When you see your child going into the first grade, sometimes you understand yourself better when you were in the first grade. So this is like you're like moving forward on a linear line, a linear process of time, but actually you're like understanding backwards or going into a deeper understanding of what was, okay? So this is a very natural process. This is how it happens also when we learn a profession. Sometimes after a few years, we understand things that we didn't understand before.
When you start teaching.
Yeah, or when you start teaching, like Dan said, you understand better what you haven't understood before. So this is, so why am I saying that? Because we need to understand that when Kabbalists like Baal Sulam, Ari, Rashbi, there were few all along the history that wrote about the highest point of the moment of creation or the adhesion with the creator. So we need to understand that they write it from their attainment, meaning they attained this highest peak and they write from there. And not many Kabbalists are doing that. There were many that attained that point. Most of them couldn't have the words or the ability to express that in writings or in words. Okay. We have questions? No.
Actually, wait. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Question from Bo. If the root of initiation is the will to receive, which is the material with which we were created, is this a possibility wave in which we somehow boot ourselves into existence out of a field of potential?
Again?
Is the will to receive the material with which we were created possibly a wave in which we somehow boot ourselves into existence?
A wave that boot, I don't understand the word boot.
Boot, like bootstrap, like out of nothing. Like the will to receive,
yeah,
like
okay.
The seed.
So this is a big question. Again, this is a big question. I don't want to get into it now. We'll probably talk about it, me and Dan, later on during the course. But there is a big question. Baal Sram writes about it in an allegory of a mountain and a stone, and how, when does a stone become separated from a mountain? Because in the essence, it's the same thing, the stone and the mountain. It's a very big question to ask. If all of reality is whole, is complete, is one force, then what actually allows the sensation of separation? What makes me feel existing as a separate being? And moreover, as being the center of reality. And moreover, that there are many people like that each one of them feels that he's the center of reality, or she, okay? So this is a big question, okay? It's not simple. Modern science don't have a clue about it. Like most of the biggest problems today, for example, with artificial intelligence and with understanding that things are connecting in different layers. So if you talk about a cell, so a cell is a connection of other particles that came to be a cell. And then you take a few cells and you have a tissue or an organ, and then you have a human body, and then you have a society. And then there are big questions. What separates the individual from a society? Can you talk about an individual as a thing that stands on its own, or is it a complete product of society? Not talking only on the level of culture or norms or thoughts, but also talking about germs. We know that 3 kilos at least of our body are germs, and these germs sometimes You say germs, right?
Bacteria.
Bacteria, okay. Bacteria, and these bacteria, we know from research that it determines what kind of foods we'd like to eat and what do I desire right now, and sometimes who even I decide to marry, because it's according to the same equivalence of bacteria. So you have sexual attractions and all kinds of phenomena like that. So where does it end? And if you're talking about consciousness, it's completely crazy, because what allows the perception of the self? So there are all kinds of thoughts about it, that we have like these sensors in our skin that tells us that here our body ends. Otherwise, we completely would identify through what we call mirror neurons with the other. So I wouldn't feel any sensation of the self. So I have something in the skin that says that here I am. And it's a question, what does the skin actually means? And in physics, it's completely crazy at all. Like if you're talking about physics, so we know in physics that everything is one wave, or you can call it the one function, the wave function of the universe. So it's all one wave, and me at the end, this table are just like a different density of matter or different level of energy in this one wave. So what makes this thing a thing of its own? So why am I saying all this? Because I want to say that this is a very deep question. And in Kabbalah, we say it very simple, like we understand it. Like, yeah, like I don't know. I don't know how to be ironic enough in English, but it's like we understand it. So we're saying, yeah, it's a will to receive. This will to receive makes the creature as something separated from the creator.
May I clarify one thing real quick?
Sure.
On that, the sentence that caught me was, it says this means that it is the root of initiation, and the it speaks of is the will to receive. So it just, that's just what triggered the question, is if that is the root, who initiates it?
The root, this is the root of creation. Creation in Hebrew means bria, which means separation from the creator. Before that, we cannot speak of anything, because all is one. And we, as creatures, don't have any way to perceive something that is one. We are built from this moment that there are two opposites of vessel and light, because without opposites, we don't understand anything. We understand only high from low, good from bad, bitter from sweet. Without oppositions, we don't have anything. Even in order to feel one another in a relationship, we need to fight sometimes, because otherwise we won't feel any attractions or love. So this is the initiation of what we call creation, that we are part of it. What was before, we don't understand. What will reveal afterwards, when we correct this problem that we call creation, because actually it's like an illusion, or it's like a temporal state, as I said in the beginning. Once we correct it, we don't know what will happen, okay? But this is the game. This is what we play, okay? Welcome to the game. This is level 1. Level 1 to 100 are under these rules. Here the game begins, okay? That's it. Item 2.
I think I think the question is, like, the word initiation is kind of confusing here. I think what he's talking about is that it's initiating a process. Like Aran said, the process of creation is being initialized with the will to receive. The will to receive finds itself in this infinite sea of light, and then it starts interacting with it. Before that, there was nothing, as in, like, there's certainly,
or there was everything. You know, it's the same.
There was no by nothing I meant there was no change.
Or there was endless change. Again, it's similar like the speed of light. It's constant menucha and
rest.
Yeah, and also it's the highest speed. So it's everything in one. That's what I want. There is no perception.
Because he follows ascent in substance, there's certainly no form of will to receive in his essence. So without will to receive, there is no process that happens. So that's why the process begins. Linda had a question of how does evolution fit in here? I think in the diagram of
Evolution is the way that we perceive in our world, in our five senses, the process of the change and the advancement of the will to receive from the lowest level of matter, that we think that there is something like matter, to the point at least of the awakening of the spiritual desire. This is what we call in our world at least evolution. Also, we don't really understand how it works. There are many paradoxes in that. But in general, we understand that at least evolution is the only thing in nature that scientists are willing to talk about something that is called a purpose, okay? Because if you go to physics or places like that and you talk about purpose, nobody will, like a goal of a process, nobody will be willing to talk about it. But in biology, and that's why you have all kinds of I don't want to get into it, but you have all kinds of debates with the semi-religious to religious concept, because in biology for the first time you can talk about some kind of purpose, some kind of process from that advances or changes. And then is it random? Is it not random? Is it planned? Is it not planned? Big questions, not for now.
Item 2, page 566. As we have said, the will to receive is innately included in the thought of creation with all its denominations, along with the great abundance he had planned to delight them and to impart to them. And know that these are the or and kli that we discern in the upper worlds. They necessarily come tied together and cascade together degree by degree, and the extent to which the degrees descend from the light of his face and depart from him is the extent of the materialization of the will to receive contained in the abundance.
This is very important because, again, reality is one, okay? איך אומרים מוצץ?
Motzets?
Yeah. How do you
Like
say?
a pacifier?
No, motzets. What the baby sucks. You know, when you have a baby, you buy something that it. How do you call it?
Pacifier.
Pacifier? Oh, really?
Because it pacifies.
A teething ring? A teething ring?
I don't. When
It's pacifier.
pacifier.
Yeah.
Okay, pacifier. I haven't heard this word ever. Okay, so pacifier. So when you give the baby a pacifier, so it doesn't, he or she doesn't understand at all what it is. Okay, they just suck it and they stop crying. Okay, they think that they're imitating an action of suckling and they being calmed by that or whatever. Later on, when they grow up, they say, I want a pacifier like this, I don't want a pacifier like that, okay? Or maybe sometimes, I remember my child crying and I give him the pacifier and he says, no, I want mommy to give me the pacifier. And then you have a huge sin, okay? So what the hell? Like, it's the same pacifier. Take it, be quiet. No, I want mother to bring me the pacifier. What I want to say, reality is the same, okay? The ability to discern reality into what we feel, what we sense, how it is divided to the part of the creation in it and the pleasure in it, or what he calls the vessel and the light, is according to our advancement, to our sensitivity, okay? It's just like the pacifier. Again, this goes back to the two layers we talked about. Animals don't care who gives them the pacifier. Well, you can say that domestic animals sometimes are because they have some kind of mingling with the speaking level. But if you talk about wild animals or if you talk about a child, he'll look on a picture and he says, wow, this is a nice picture. And this is the same picture. And he doesn't care, who made the picture. But if you take two pictures to somebody older and he says, wow, I'm willing to pay $10 million for this picture because, I don't know, Picasso painted it. And this is just an imitation of Picasso. This would be like 10 shekels. And you go like, what? It's the same picture. Just put it in your living room and enjoy it. It's the same view. No, it is important, the internal layer of what is the origin, where did it came from, okay? This is all of our lives, okay? Even in flavors, even biologically in flavors, sometimes we'll feel physically different because we know where it came from. We know from we know from studies that if you take the same hamburger and you sell it in a McDonald's package, or you sell it in a Dan's Burgers package, then people will taste it differently, but it's the same burger, okay? And we know that if we get as a present $1,000 and we get it from somebody that loves us, or we get it from, I don't know, from our spouse that left us for somebody younger, and then for us not to feel so bad, he throws us $1,000, it feels differently, the same $1,000, okay? So all of our life is messed up by these two different layers, okay? And it comes from here, okay? This is the source that we can separate light and vessel.
We can also state the opposite. To the extent that the will to receive in the abundance materializes, it descends degree by degree to the lowest of places where the will to receive is fully materialized. This place is called the world of Asiya. The will to receive is considered man's body, guf, and the abundance, shefa, one receives, is considered the measure of vitality in that guf.
Okay, I said last time when it says considered, or words like is, just do a quotation, equation mark above it, and mark what's on the left, mark what's on the right, okay? It will help you. So he's talking now about the lowest point of the materialization of something that is called the will to receive, that we have no clue what it is. We have no clue what does it mean to materialize, okay? But this is what happens to this will to receive until the lowest place that is called the world of Asiya. What is the world of Asiya? Where is that? Is that somewhere in New Mexico or in Australia, or is it deep in the ocean? We don't know, okay? But this is what he calls it. The lower level of materialization is called the world of Asiya. And then in that state, the will to receive is called a body that we have no clue what it is. It's not our physical body. And the abundance is called the vitality in the body, okay? That we have also no clue what it means, but these are like concepts exactly like when we learn the language. So we say that this is a cow, it does moo, and that's it. This is moo, this is a cow, that's it. Okay? We don't go deeper into understanding what it means.
It is similar in other creatures in this world. Thus, the only difference between the upper worlds and this world is that as long as the will to receive included in his abundance has not fully materialized, it's regarded as being in the spiritual worlds above this world. And once the will to receive is fully materialized, it's regarded as being in this world.
Okay, so completely realized is this world.
Item 3, bottom of page 566. The above-mentioned order of cascading, which brings the will to receive to its final form in this world, follows a sequence of 4 discernments that exist in the 4-letter name Havaya.
Okay, so a name, we talked about it last time. A name is a way, is how we perceive something, okay? That's why this reality in Ensof, in the, how would you say Ensof?
Ensof.
Ensof. So this reality in Ensof, in infinity, or Ensof in Hebrew also means infinity, okay? That it doesn't have any limit, but it also refers to the initial state of creation. So this state of Ensof is called he is one and his name is one, okay? Why? Because the vessel, how we perceive him, we call it name, and the essence, the light, are one, are equal, okay? So a name is how we perceive something. This is very important. So he says that the formula that contains all of reality, meaning the name, how we perceive reality, is called a name of the 4 letters. And it is also called Havaya, okay? So in Hebrew, we have these 4 letters. Havaya, and just think of it as a formula, you know, just like, I don't know, like E equals MC squared. What does it mean? I don't have a clue. Somebody told me that this thing that you post on stickers on your car means that that represents something very, very smart that Einstein once found out. Okay, later on,
it basically means that matter and energy are equal. The matter and the energy are interchangeable.
Okay, so this is a deeper understanding of what it means. I'm sure that if we'll take somebody that deals with that on a daily basis as a profession, he will explain that he can explain this equation for 2 hours. Okay, so what do you perceive in this equation really depends on how you perceive it. Okay, that's what I want to say. Okay, so this at the moment doesn't mean anything to us, just like a formula. Okay. Later on, we'll see that in this, we have all of reality. Okay, this represents all of reality, every aspect of reality. Every slice that you take from the salami and all the salami together are being representative by the same formula.
This is because the 4 letters Havaya in his name contain the whole of reality without any exception. In general, they're described by the 10 Sfirot, Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, Malchut, and their Shoresh. They are 10 Sfirot because the Sfira Tiferet contains 6 internal Sfirot called Chagat Na'i, Chesed, Gura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, and the root called Keter. In essence, they are called Chub Tum,
Okay.
Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut.
Oh, in English, this is what sorry. Okay, so again, so another way to describe this formula. So it says this is like Keter. No, I want. Let's do a new one. Okay, so if you write it down, so this is Yud A Vav A. So you can talk about not just according to the letters, that the letters are like a formula, like we said, like variables in the formula. So you can talk about it in a different way. You can talk about it in the essence of each one. Okay, just like in MC squared. So just like we got an explanation that E is like energy and M like mass and etc. So you can talk about the essence of each. So or in Kabbalah, you start to understand that we examine reality according to the different combination of light and vessel, because everything is just a combination of light and vessel. So you can call it Keter, Chokhmah. You start Chokhmah with H?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chokhmah.
The capital
No,
H,
yeah,
big H.
I'll do like this. Chokhmah, Binah, capital H. Okay. Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut. And you have here what we call the tip of the Yud, like the root, which is like Keter.
Can't sit down.
They can, great, nice. Now they can, right? So this is like Keter. So what does it mean? Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut. These are called Sfirot. What is a Sfira? A Sfira is a different combination between light and vessel. I don't know. You can compare it if you want to different senses. Okay. So we have like hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling. They are all forms of perceiving of information from outside of ourselves, but they are on different channels, okay? You can perceive it as like the spectrum of the colors. So you have like different colors on the spectrum that are different sensitivity or the amount of light. I don't know how exactly they measure like the change. It's probably about the wavelength, right? So you have all of it on a different spectrum, but still you separate them to red, blue, I don't know what, black, white, like maybe initial colors, like we separated to initial flavors. You can also say that our senses are on the same scale. Yeah, we know, for example, that if our nose is blocked, then we taste something different in the food. Or or sometimes the smell reminds us of something we saw, or if we sing something, it sometimes take out the taste in our mouth, or on the contrary, like we say that we eat with our eyes. so it's not like really separated, what I want to say. But it's easy for us to separate to like prototypes, okay? It's much more easier. It makes reality more simple. Like we say that we divide reality to black and white. Of course we divide it to black and white. Otherwise we couldn't understand anything. That's why as kids we have black and white. Later on we have 50 shades of gray or something. But in the beginning we have prototypes, okay? So, and it's easier like this. So here we have Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut. In initials, we call it Chub Tum, okay? Because sometimes we don't want to mention the Keter, just like in the formula Yud K Vav K, we don't always mention the tip of the Yud, okay? And also it says why they are called 10 Sfirot, because this is divided into Tiferet is divided into Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Chagat Netzach, Od, and Yesod. Okay, why is this division? We'll talk about it later, but just to know that, yes.
And they are 4 worlds, continuing at the top of page 567, called Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. The world of Asiyah contains this world within it. Thus, there's not a creature in this world which is not initiated in the world of Ein Sof and the thought of creation to delight his creatures.
Okay, so again, also according to this formula, we have a division to different layers of perception or concealment. As we said last time, that the world is a level of concealment. So here he mentions 4 worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. And because sometimes, again, we don't mention the first world, which is Adam Kadmon. He'll mention that later on. But again, just like, let's take the example again with the senses. So we have different senses like flavor, like tasting, smelling, hearing, blah, blah, blah. And you can also say that in the evolution of a child, then in the beginning, he senses more because he doesn't see anything, or maybe 30 centimeters or something. He doesn't hear anything. He cannot encrypt what he hears. So mostly it's about touch, and we know that if we don't touch children, they can die out of lack of touch. And then later on, he needs to taste everything, so he needs to stick everything into his mouth. If it's not in his mouth, he doesn't know about it, anything. Then later on, he starts developing his ability to see, and he doesn't need to stick everything to his mouth. It's enough to see, and so forth and so forth. What do I want to say is like you have different levels of concealment here, which is have equivalence to the forms of perceiving of reality.
Hence, it is innately comprised of light and kli, meaning a certain measure of abundance with the will to receive that abundance. The measure of abundance, or shefa, extends existence, from his essence, atzmuto. And the will to receive the abundance is initiated existence from absence. But for that will to receive, to acquire its final quality, it must cascade along with the abundance within it through the 4 worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. This completes the creation with the light and the kli called guf and the light of life within it.
Okay, this is something very important that he'll elaborate on in the next item. But all of this process of descending that we've talked about is being made in order to bring the will to receive to its final form. Meaning not only the will to receive is the only thing that was being created. We can only talk from the moment of the will to receive. And the will to receive is the only thing that needs to be corrected. It's the reason why all this process comes to be. Okay, why is this important? Because we need to understand that what we call in our life darkness, concealment, pain, lack, desire is actually the goal of creation, to develop that. Okay, it's an important thing. Because we usually try to erase that. Like most of our life is just trying to erase the deficiency. In spirituality, it's on the contrary. deficiency is what is needed. It's the most important resource. It's the most important thing. That's why you can start to understand why it's a completely opposite world. Because in our world, we operate in deficiency, in lack, and we try to somehow find some fulfillment. In spirituality, it's completely the opposite. You are open to a reality of endless abundance. Now the only question is, how do you get vessels? How do you get a deficiency to attain any of it, to observe some of it? This is a completely other problem. That's why it's a completely different operating system.
Item 4.
No questions?
Yeah, we have questions. Questions.
Whatever you say. You want to do it after 4?
We just have one question from Alma. She asks, why is the same letter, why are Malchut and Bina represented by the same letter?
This is another very deep question. It's a very deep question that will relate to it later on. It's a very deep question. It's a very deep question. Actually, what it wants to say is that there is no much difference between bestowing and receiving. There is no much difference between the yearning to achieve adhesion with the Creator and what we call the yearning to be happy or to be fulfilled. For us at the moment, it seems like separate things because we imagine fulfillment, just give me everything. And adhesion is to, I want some kind of relation with the one who gives me. So it's important for me who I receive from. Later on, we'll find out that there is no meaning in fulfillment. Fulfillment itself can be the biggest pain that can be. All of reality and the only true fulfillment can be in adhesion with the Creator. This is not simple at all. This can be only understood when a person starts to feel how his self, how his essence is not inside of his own self, meaning it's not about fulfilling what he thinks is himself, meaning he stops relating to the animal level, to his protein body, and he starts to perceive reality in a different way above his body. But these are deep stuff, like in the structure of the world, you have many concepts coming from that. It wants to say that in the end, it's darkness and light are just two aspects of the same thing. And we'll talk about it later on, but it's a good question.
Item 4, page 567. The reason why the will to receive must cascade by the 4 above-mentioned discernments in Abiyah is that there's a great rule concerning the kilim, that is, the expansion of the light and its departure make the kli fit for its task.
Okay, this is a very important rule. We also talked about it last time. What it means that in order for a desire to come to be, you need to give it light, and then it spreads in the desire. After that, the light goes out, and then the desire becomes independent and yearns after the light itself. Okay, this is a very major principle. Also in our life, everything is being built on that. If you think, I go to a cruise, on the cruise somebody comes to me and give me a white powder. I never tasted this white powder. I think maybe it looks like
Flour.
Yeah, it looks like flour. Maybe I want to do bread from it or add it as a sugar. And he says, no, you need to stick it in your nose or something or put it in your vein. And I go like, wow, like never, ever before I felt something like this. And then later on, I'm willing to sell my mother for this white powder, okay? So first there was pleasure, spreading, going out, and then I need this powder, okay? This is how marketing works. So I don't want this new washing machine. I'm very satisfied with my current washing machine. I had it for 15 years. I'm pretty okay by that. But they give me some kind of pleasure that I see all these nice gadgets and this new machine can do a massage while you wait for the laundry, or it can create new I don't know, smells or whatever, or it can speak 3 different languages, and suddenly I want this machine, okay? So they gave me some kind of sensation of fulfillment, and now I have my desire. Flirts are being created like that. Yeah, that's why that's why all the pornography industry is built on that. Because if we would be all walking around naked, then there would be no industry. Yeah, nobody's willing to pay money for that. If you go to an African village that everybody's, or somewhere in South America in a jungle, and you show them nude pictures and they go like, what? Okay, yeah, like what? You know. So, so everything is being built on a concealment that that you need to like suggest a pleasure, conceal it, and then you have a desire, okay? Just like flirts, that you have some kind of, it's like a dance, okay? Also in nature, when you see a female and a male in nature, so they have this chizur, how do you say? This like a mating dance, I don't know how you say it in English.
Yeah, that's how.
So you come closer and you go back, and you come closer and you go back. So you like bringing pleasure, taking it away, bringing pleasure, taking it away, and this is how you create a desire. So this is all comes from here. It comes to say that first of all, you need to have pleasure in something. It's just like we give a child an example of something, a sensation of something. Sometimes you say in education that it's all about creating positive experiences, because it's like a positive experience. Suddenly it creates some kind of connection in the neurons, and then he can achieve it on his own, okay? Or she can achieve it on her own. Please.
This means that as long as the Kli has not been separated from its light, it is included in the light and is annulled within it like a candle in a torch. This annulment is because they are completely opposite from one another on opposite ends. This is so because the light extends from his essence, atzmuto, existence from existence. From the perspective of the thought of creation in Ein Sof, it's all towards bestowal and there is no trace of will to receive in it. Its opposite is the Kli, the great will to receive that abundance which is the root of the initiated creature in which there is no bestowal whatsoever. Hence, when they are bound together, the will to receive is annulled when the light within it and can determine its form only once the light has departed there. It is so because following the departure of the light from it, it begins to crave it. And this craving properly determines and sets the shape of the will to receive. Subsequently, when the light dresses in it once more, it is regarded as 2 separate matters, Kli and light, or guf and life. Observe closely, for this is most profound.
Why is it most profound? Because again, as we talked before, there was a good question about it. The question of separation, what separates 2 different objects or 2 different things from being one, is this yearning, is this lack, is this departure of one from the other, okay? Again, it's very similar to having a child. So a child is being born either, I don't know, to royalty in England or to poverty somewhere in, I don't know, in Asia, okay? So the child, he doesn't understand where was he born to, okay? He just lives it and he takes it for granted, okay? These are my parents, this is what I have. If I have a PlayStation or I have nothing to eat. If I'm like a prince of a king or I'm nobody. This is reality for him. Only after he's being separated from that, being independent from that, when he or she needs to attain something on their own, then they start to understand what they had. They don't take it for granted. They don't feel it as something that was obviously part of them. And then, only then they can start to relate to what their parents gave to them, who were their parents, how should they have appreciated what they had, or on the contrary, how I didn't have nothing, etc., etc. Okay, so what do I want to say? That until the vessel is being separated from the light, it's all as one.
Item 5.
Also in our process, until a person comes to the point that he feels that he lacks a purpose in life, that he lacks to understand a higher reason or a higher purpose, he just lives life. This is life, this is life. You get up, you eat, you go, you see football, you go to work, you marry, you divorce, you marry again, you go to somewhere else, you go to somewhere else. This is life, no question about it. He needs to have a lack, like being alienated from life or for something, to have this some kind of deficiency to start finding in the same life a completely different reality.
Item 5, page 567 at the bottom. Hence, the 4 discernments in the name Havaya, called Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut, are required. B'china Aleph, phase or aspect 1, called Chokhmah, is indeed the whole of the emanated being, light and Kli. It is the great will to receive with all the light included in it, called the Or Chokhmah, or Chaya, the light of life, as it is the Chaim, life, in the emanated being, dressed in its Kli. However, this B'china Aleph is considered all light, and the Kli in it is barely noticeable, as it is mingled with the light and annulled in it like a candle in a torch. Following it comes B'china Bet, since at its end, the Kli of Chokhmah prevails in equivalence of form with the upper light in it. This means that a desire to bestow upon the emanator appears in it, according to the nature of the light within it, entirely to bestow. Then, using this desire which has awakened in it, a new light extends to it from the emanator called Or Chasadim. As a result, it becomes almost entirely separated from the Or Chokhmah that the emanator imprinted in it, since the Or Chokhmah can only be received in its own Kli, a desire to receive that has grown to its fullest measure. Thus, the light and Kli in B'china Bet are utterly different from those in B'china Aleph, since the Kli in it is a desire to bestow. The light within it is considered Or Chasadim, a light that stems from the Dvekut, adhesion, of the emanated in the emanator, as the desire to bestow induces its equivalence of form with the emanator. And in spirituality, equivalence of form is Dvekut, adhesion. Next follows B'china Gimel. Once the light has diminished in the emanated being into Or Chasadim without any Chokhmah, while it is known that Or Chokhmah is the essence of the emanated being, hence at the end of B'china Bet, it awakened and drew within it a measure of Or Chokhmah to shine within its Or Chasadim. This awakening re-extended a certain measure of the will to receive, which forms a new Kli called B'china Gimel, or Tiferet. And the light in it is called the light of Chasadim with the illumination of Chokhmah, since the majority of that light is Or Chasadim, and its lesser part is Or Chokhmah. Following it came B'china Dalet, since the Kli of B'china Gimel too awakened at its end to draw the complete Or Chokhmah, as it occurred in B'china Aleph. Thus, this awakening is considered a craving in the measure of the will to receive in B'china Aleph, and exceeded it, since now it has already been separated from that light, as the light of Chokhmah is no longer clothed in it, but craves it. Thus, the form of the will to receive has been fully determined, since the Kli is determined following the expansion of the light and its departure. Later, when it returns, it will receive the light once more. It turns out that the Kli precedes the light this time, and this is why this B'china Dalet is considered the completion of the Kli, and it is called Malchut.
First of all, you see, this is a very good example of the principle we talked about. This is an item we haven't read before. That's why it feels harder than the items we've read before, because those we've read, you already have some kind of vessel, because it went in, you lost it. It went in again today, then it comes in some kind of sensitivity. For this, we have no sensitivity. For what I read right now, it's like Chinese for me. I'm just sitting. I'm just thinking. I'm like a cow standing in the, how do you say refit? Like the house of the cows. How do you say that?
I guess it's barn.
No, but barn is a sum. Barn is like a general. But don't you have a name for a place that you grow like hundreds of cows?
It's not stable.
No,
Corral. Corral. Corral.
Crowd?
Corral.
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 Yeah,
Okay, thank
that
you very
sounds
much.
good.
Okay, so we are like cows in the corral. So we're just eating and we're seeing the book. And we're eating and we're seeing the book. And you don't have any, it's like nothing. So this is because we don't have a vessel for that. Yeah, so this is a good example. Okay, let's start engaging with that and building a vessel. And this is a very important item. We'll go over it also next time, don't worry. It's very profound. Just to give you some kind of general observation. So we talked about the name of the 4 letters, right? So we said that if you talk about all of reality, you can say that these are the worlds, yeah? All this process from up downwards, we can divide to the worlds. And also this part, only the beginning after the creation of the will to receive, even before the first world of Adam Kadmon, meaning in the world of infinity. This is called 4 phases of direct light, and they are built also according to this formula, okay? So I just wanted to show that the formula is in the part and in the whole as well. So if we talk about this formula in the 4 phases of direct light, so we are talking now after the will to receive was created in the world of Ein Sof. What happens to the will to receive? What process does it go through? Okay, this is what he describes here. So he says that we have 4 phases, 4 discernments that are called Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut. We've known that already. Chokhmah, Binah, Tiferet, and Malchut. The first phase is called Chokhmah because this is the whole creature which is built from light and vessel with all the will to receive. This is what we draw in the beginning with all the light in it, okay? So we drew it like this before. And this is called Pchina Aleph. How should I write that? Phase 1?
Bechina Aleph.
Like in Hebrew? Okay. Pchina.
They usually add an E between the B and the H.
Between the B and the H. E?
There's
like,
an
like
E.
this?
Yeah.
Pchina.
Because in English, like
Yeah,
putting 2 consonants together is
it's like they saying Tehina, right?
tahini.
Tehini instead of saying Tchina. Okay, whatever. So this is Bechina 1, okay? Okay, so this is Bechina 1. This is the whole vessel that was created with the light in it. Initial state, the light creates the vessel, the will to receive, and fills it completely. The light that is sensed in this state is called Chaya. In Hebrew, Chaya means both life or animal. It's the same
Word.
It's the same word or the same root. But Dan will, I like when Dan explains Hebrew. It's so cool. I must say that I learned Kabbalah much better when I started talking with people that immigrated to Israel when they are natives English speaking or Russian speaking, and then they have all these observations in Hebrew, that Hebrew is built like that, and this is the root, and you never thought of it as somebody that grew up into Hebrew. This is very cool. It gives you a lot of like corporal observations, but it's cool. Okay, so the light in it is called Chaya. This is the name, how you call the sensation of the light, okay? Or he calls it also the light of Chokhmah. So 2 names. Why? We don't know. This is a cow, it does moo. Okay? Cow, moon, 2 names. Why? I don't know. But this is how we learn it right now. And he says that okay, so now he explains why is it a cow, moo. So now he explains why do you call it the light Chaya? Because this is the whole light of life. Meaning that beside the vessel, the matter that sense, everything in it, all the sensation of life, the information, the pleasure, comes from the light. That's why you call it Chaya, because it's life. This is life. What is life? Life is everything that I sense. Okay, beside the point that senses it. Okay. and this first Pticha is considered mostly light, and the vessel is almost, you cannot, non-ikar, how do they translate that?
Unattainable?
Yeah, like it's mostly light, and
Or Pticha Aleph?
yeah, Pticha Aleph. Mostly light, and the vessel is not
Noticeable.
noticeable. Okay, noticeable. So this is not noticeable. Why? Because it's like a light compared to a torch. Okay, so the sensation of life is so huge compared to the vessel that this vessel is like a spark. You know, it doesn't. Sometimes we feel that in life, right? We have this all this pleasure coming in. You know, this is so great. Wow, I'm burning. You know, this is such a huge. And I just like I feel myself like gits. How do you say gits? When you have medua, you have gitzim. You have like
embers?
Embers, yeah, these things that fly from.
I think so.
So you feel yourself like an ember in this huge burning, you know, and it's you just like flow with it, you know. So this is like okay, and then afterwards you have the second phase. Why do we need a second phase? You know, let's close it. Let's call it a deal. You know, we have the creator. He created the will to receive, filled it with the light. That's it. Setu, you know. Story ended, and they lived happily ever after. No, the process goes on. If the process goes on, it means that there is a reason. Okay, so we want to understand what is the cause. Why didn't we achieve the end of correction right here, right now? Right here, right now. There was something.
Yeah, Van Halen.
Really? Yeah, cool. Right here, right now. Okay. And then after that, you have the second phase. Okay. And that's the problem with English. You know, when I speak Hebrew, you have like a Kabbalistic references to every word or sentence. In English, everything is like pop culture. It's a problem. And after that, you have the second phase, and this is because the vessel mitgaber. How do they translate? Overcomes in the equality of form to the upper light, meaning he has a new desire to bestow. Why is that? Because the light has the nature in it to bestow, and this new desire that awakens causes him to draw a new light that is called the light of Chasadim. This is interesting. This is a completely new concept. What does Parasuram says? He says that in the light that came, I didn't feel only pleasure, but in the light itself, there is also the quality of the light, like the source of the light, the nature of the light. That I feel beside the pleasure, I feel that there is, maybe you see it like this, it's like a red on the blue. Yes, it's like built into the light, that in this light, I sense that there is something higher that brings me the light, that there is something more. I got $1 million from Bill Gates. I enjoyed the $1 million. Immediately afterwards, I think, whoa, you know, Bill Gates, he also had the $1 million to give me. He also had the pleasure of giving me that. I want to be Bill Gates, okay? So there is a sensation of something deeper inside of the pleasure. Like we talked in the beginning of the lesson about the 2 layers, okay? So this is called the nature of the light. And then the vessel, because it's a will to receive, it says, and I'm oversimplifying now because it's the first time we go over it. Again, remember the prototypes, the world is black and white in the beginning, right? Everything is divided, so it will be easier for us to discern things. So the vessel senses the root of the pleasure, the nature of the light, and it says, I want to be like the light. Because if I'll be like the light, bestowing, then I'll probably have a bigger pleasure. Because if I'll be like Bill Gates, I'll have the $1 million and I'll have much more, okay? Because he's like the source of the $1 million. This is called Pchina Bet, Bina. Okay? And what does he say about it? He says that the light that is being sensed in it is called Chasadim. So to simplify matters, the light that we feel in reception is called Chaya or Chokhmah. The light that we sense in bestowing is called Chasadim, okay? Again, the light is the same light. The light doesn't change. But if we taste in that pleasure from receiving, it's called Chokhmah. If we taste in that a pleasure of bestowing, it's called Chasadim. Okay. I see according to the faces that some of the friends look overwhelmed, like over capacity. Like, how do you say in English? Like omes yeter.
Yeah, over.
Yeah, you know, like when a machine is warming too much. So I hope I didn't burn your brain. Should we go forward? I don't know. Maybe we should stop now.
We have about 6 minutes.
We have like 6 minutes. Okay, do we have questions?
Questions?
Yeah. Or should we finish this? I don't know, at least close it. Let's just close it and then, yeah, you know, if your brain burned out by now, so it's total lost for this lesson anyway. So next time we'll start all over again. If not, then at least we'll close the passage, okay? So why is this? Okay, so I won't go with him because I don't want to, I want to simplify it even more. So let's just go with our words and then next time we'll go over the text again. So the vessel wants to bestow, this is Pchina Bet. But what it senses that he's not the source of light. It's not like a factory of energy. It's not a propertum mobile, okay? The will to receive doesn't have light from its own. It needs to receive it in order to bestow. That's why we have the third Pchina, in which the vessel says, I want to keep bestowing, just like the creator, but I need to receive something. So I have some kind of livelihood. I have some kind of life, some kind of fuel to bestow more, okay? This light is called Chasadim. We don't have place here. Chasadim in the illumination wants to say that there is a small light. Illumination, how do you write it? Illumination.
That's clear.
Yeah, because I don't have autocorrect here. It's a problem. Chasadim in the illumination of Chokhmah. Okay, so it's a complicated way to say that you want to keep bestowing more. This is called Chasadim. You want to keep bestowing more, being like the creator, but you need some kind of fuel for yourself. This is called illumination of Chokhmah, okay? Now, what happened in this process? Towards the light of Chokhmah, something really interesting happened here. First, the light of Chokhmah spread in the vessel. Then it was gone, no light Chokhmah. Then it comes back, okay? This is called the spreading of the light and the departure of it, just like we read in the previous item, creates a vessel. So now when the light of Chokhmah comes back in the third Pchina, the Kli already yearns for it. And what we have in Pchina Daled, we have in the fourth Pchina. Somebody is unmuted. Was that Spanish or English? Ah, cool. We have all kinds of languages. Okay, so in the fourth phase, in the fourth Pchina, what happens? The vessel had the light of Chokhmah, didn't have it, only Chasadim in Pchina Bet. Now has it again in Pchina Gimel, and now he yearns for it on its own. So we're saying that in Pchina 4, in the fourth phase, the vessel wants the light of Chokhmah, all of it, and it wants also the pleasure in being like the creator. Meaning I want the $1 million, like in Pchina 1, and I also want to be like the creator in Pchina 2, being like Bill Gates. So I want both of them. So this is a complete new desire that was created, not only for the pleasure, but being like the source. And this is the story of our life, that we will never be content by a pleasure. This is the biggest illusion in our life. If I only have this new car, if I only have this new woman, if I only have this new house, if I only have this new profession, if I only have this new degree, if I only succeed in this new project, I'll never, ever ask for anything else in my life, cross my fingers, swear to I don't know what, and that's it. And when I attain it, then immediately I want something else. Because from my root, we are built in a way that until we won't have this endless attainment, endless pleasure through the attainment in the Creator, we will never be satisfied. We can only blur this desire, try to forget that. That's actually all of our life. All of our life is an endless, fruitless pursuit after a pleasure that we can never attain. So we're just blurring it. How do we blur it? One of two choices. Either we create artificial desires, just like when I remember when I was we have a holiday of Purim. It's like Halloween, when you dress up in costumes. So I remember I used to dress up as a cheerleader once when I was in school. Don't ask.
Why, they have male
cheerleaders.
cheerleaders.
No, Dan's face said it all. Okay, so I remember wearing heels, okay? Like you see
that
heels.
kind of, okay.
Yeah, so you have heels, okay? And this is like pressing on your leg. You want to
Wait, you
die.
have cheerleaders here?
Yeah.
For what sport?
In Israel, you have sport, it's not...
What, basketball?
Yeah,
Football?
yeah.
Soccer?
No, yeah, we have, no, you have cheerleaders in basketball. It's like,
basketball.
It's Israeli basketball,
Yeah,
but
okay.
still it's
Basketball's pretty big here.
Okay, so you have heels and it presses on your legs and you want to die. And when you get home and you take off the shoes, you feel like, such pleasure. And this is our life, okay? I remember when I quit smoking, 18 years I smoked like half a pack a day. And then you understand that, suddenly you understand that it doesn't give you any pleasure. Only the nicotine only creates a craving that you want to cover up. So actually the pleasure you feel is that after 12 hours of flying to the States and having this complete pressure, because you cannot smoke in no airport, nowhere else, then you go out and you take a cigarette and you feel a pleasure, because you feel a relief. Yeah, and that's it. And I remember it was a psychological shock, because you stop smoking and then why do you live for? Because all your life, you had to finish this task and then you have a cigarette. You get up in the morning, you have a cigarette. You finish the day, it was a crazy day. Everybody was screaming at you, but you have the cigarette. Now you don't have a cigarette. So why am I living for? This is life, just go on with no relief. And this is how we create I muted myself from the enthusiasm.
Yeah,
cool.
The creator was like, enough.
Cool, yeah. No, we need to end, so...
We do need to end, yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're ending. So what I want to say is that all of our life, we just either create this stressful state, these problems, in order to feel a relief when we finish that, like a new challenge, like extreme sport, like problems, different problems. Otherwise, we don't feel anything. Otherwise, we yearn our life to be in a vacation, sit on the beach, doing nothing with a margarita somewhere in Mexico or in Greece, or I don't know where. And when we get to that, we just it's like a cemetery. You just go crazy. This is one option. The other option to blur it is just to take drugs. So you take all these antidepressant, just not to feel anything, you know. So you or drink alcohol. So you're just like walking life like a zombie, okay? Just not to feel. But the problem is, and it's a sad story in the end, because or just watching TV. So TV, you know, you have these sleeping waves, just not to, again, all our culture is just escaping to other people's stories. So I escape to this movie, I escape to this book, I escape to famous people. What is all the celebrities, all this gossip? I want to live somebody else's life. I just want to somehow get out of life. I go into nature. Why do we like nature so much? Forest, sea, because I somehow feel less of myself, something bigger than myself. Crazy ideology. I go into ISIS. I go into, I don't know, this feminist movement. Just to feel something bigger than myself. Anyway, it's just everything is about escaping this desire that can only be achieved by adhesion with the Creator, meaning understanding the laws in which we live, the one law, and coming to equivalence of form with it. That's it. Next lesson, we'll go over this item again.
All right, next week we'll start with item 5 on
Yeah.
page 567.
No question.
This week, we don't have time.
We've burned everybody else.
We burned
Yeah.
through all of our time. Thursday night graduate class with Dave and Jim is coming up this week. And then Sunday night meeting with friends and young group. So that's what we have this week. Thank you all. It was a wonderful lesson. Thanks for being here. And
Yeah, sorry.
we'll see you next week.
Yeah, it was too much maybe. Okay.
Bye, everybody.